Music. Music. Music is the basis of all life. Music is the basis of all life.
Okay. I got the Oscar fever. Hope you got it too. Pour me some bubbly for it. Living of it too. I got the Oscar fever. Hope you got it too. Pour me some bubbly, won't you? Gonna drink it too. Pour me some bubbly, more like smoke me some more weed. Ha. Welcome, friends. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Is the basis of all life.
It's time to talk about movies again. I am hopefully going to be ranking every single movie I saw in 2023, which currently stands at 67 films. Oh, goddamn, this trailer is fuck. What the fuck is this movie? This is crazy. Oh, this is Craven. Oh, shit, I actually haven't seen this trailer. I didn't know anything about it. Looks pretty batshit. I mean, spider shit. Okay. Let's get into it. You know what you're here for. I saw 67 movies. I'm going to rank them one at a time. If you would like to hear on my thoughts or more extended thoughts on any particular film, please let me know. The first movie I watched in 2023 was a movie called You People.
Music.
This movie sucks. This was easily in my top 10 worst movies of the year. So this is going to be very close to the bottom. It might be in the top 5 or bottom 5 worst of the year. But yeah, it's just awful. Jonah Hill tries to solve racism by making a movie wherein the plot is a black woman and a Jewish man fall in love and they want to get married. But the families, namely the black family, are just like really racist / anti-Semitic. And I will say I did give it 2 stars because I will say like there are like it's supposed to be like a romantic comedy, and I won't lie, there were a few scenes that did make me laugh. Like as a comedy, I would actually say it's not terrible. It could be a lot worse. Like there are jokes that did make me laugh, but as a political statement and in terms of what Jonah Hill's vision clearly tried to be for this movie, I just think this was a huge failure. Really cringy, really pandering. It also made the, like, I don't know, like I would say 2 decades ago and prior, it was pretty normal to have movies where the plot revolved around the husband or the wife going to meet the extended family of the other person, the in-laws, for the first time. And they're wacky or they're not accepting. Or they're just like ignorant and difficult to be around for one reason or another. And those movies typically work because the characters in those movies are like, just kind of dumb or kind of silly or pretentious, or they just kind of have this wacky view of life, or they just have wacky personalities. Whereas I would say that this movie, instead of trying to make the characters wacky and funny, it makes the black family like actually like actively racist. Like they're just full on like anti-Semitic against the Jewish family. And it's like this just isn't fucking funny. Like this is awful. So yeah, it sucks. Easily one of the top 10 worst movies of the year. You People. Dreamy, welcome back to the stream. Great to see you this evening. Oh, Dreamy, I will say, Dreamy and myself and Big Tall, we all had the pleasure of watching one of my top 5 favorite movies of the year together in theaters, which was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That movie fucking ruled, dude. I'm so glad we got to see that together. That was like just such a fucking incredible spectacle for the big screen. Okay, the next movie I saw last year was a Netflix documentary about Pamela Anderson. And I gotta say, guys, this is actually pretty good. It's fully serious. It features extended narration and interviews with Pamela herself and a few pretty telling scenes of her with like her sons. And it's really just like a retrospective of her life and her success and how the world viewed and abused her as a sex symbol. But it's really wonderful because it's just fully from her perspective. It's her words, her insightful commentary, her perspective, and it's not diluted by any, other party. And a lot of it does focus on her sex tape with Tommy Lee, and how that was like, that coming out or getting, stolen and leaked was like a huge fucking traumatic event for her. And how like it really just fucked up her life. And the fact, and there's also like, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really know very much about her. And the big kind of emotional arc of this, I would say, is that it really talks about how she, she had passions. She's very into dance and music and acting, and she really wanted to be taken seriously in those regards. But of course, she was really kind of pigeonholed as a sex symbol. And it explores the trauma and like the psychic damage that can occur to people when we look at them and we say, oh, they have everything, they're beautiful, and that's one of the big aspects of it. But in certain regards, when that becomes your entire persona and your entire life, it can be super like just awful. And I mean, it probably goes without saying, but like she gets super personal in the documentary, and she really seems like a very like wonderful, sweet person who was probably, just really naive. Like she's always been very intelligent with her image and like her persona and the way she tries to to put her best foot forward. And like her relationship with her sons is very beautiful, and they're very like loving to each other, and they have a very strong connection. So that was really nice to see. And it's just her talking about her life, but purely from her perspective, and it's actually very good. I recommend it. Oh god, if I spend this long talking about every movie, we're gonna be here for fucking like 4 hours. I didn't want to do that. Okay. Third movie I watched. This is one I don't have very much to say about. Third movie I watched was Legion of Superheroes. It is a DC animated movie, and it's totally average. I think the animation's pretty good. Some of the characters have some cute relationships, but it's just really kind of fucking average. Or I'll say very fucking average. I really don't have much to say about it. If you love animated DC stuff, it's worth seeing, but it's nothing special. Okay, next movie. This is actually an incredibly controversial movie. Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. I gotta say, guys, and I have only heard 2 other people like in the entire world say this, but I gotta say, guys, I like this movie. Like this has been one of the top 3 all-time most bashed on, most hated, most vitriol thrown against movie of like the entire history of the fucking MCU, and I do not think it's really deserved like at all. This is not one of the best Marvel movies by any means, but it's nowhere near being the worst. Like I have no idea what people are talking about when they say this is one of the worst Marvel movies. Like it has some cool sequences, the characters are good, I like the relationships. Like for me it's just a very, very standard Marvel movie. Like it was fun, I laughed, I liked it, but it was fun, man. Like I don't know, people I recommend it. But like everyone I've talked to, literally every single person I've talked to, except for the 2 people I saw this with, everyone's fucking hated this movie. And I just don't get it, man. Like, you guys need to chill. I don't know. I guess I don't have a whole lot to really say in terms of specifics. A lot of the spectacle looks really nice. They bring in a couple A-list fucking actors who really give killer performances. The ending battle sequence is, you know, pretty fun and weird and wacky. It's got a lot of like interesting, bizarre choices. So I don't know, man. Everybody's fucking wrong. This movie's pretty good. It's not amazing. Bill Murray's in it for a little bit, and he does kind of suck, I guess. But like, I don't know, man. People need to chill out. I do think Ant-Man 2 is one of the worst Marvel movies because it was so incredibly, utterly forgettable. But I don't find this forgettable at all. Like when I think back on Quantumania, there were many, many scenes that stand out in my mind that are like imprinted in my mind because they were so memorable. So I don't know. People need to calm down because I like this a lot. I'm giving it a 3.5. One of your least favorites was Thor 2? Yep, Thor 2 is also one of the worst Marvel movies. Actually, you know what? Isn't that interesting how a lot of the second movies in their series seem to be the worst? Thor 2, Ant-Man 2. Most people hate Iron Man 2. I like it a lot. I guess I'm probably a bit more forgiving of the Marvel movies than most people from what I've seen. Okay, the 5th movie I watched from the year was called Operation Fortune. I believe this is a Guy Ritchie movie. Did I write a review for this? No, I didn't. Let's see. Oh, yeah, never mind. Spider-Man 2 is amazing. Both of the Spider-Man 2s... Oh, wait, no. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst Spider-Man movie, so that's actually true. However, the other Spider-Man 2 movies have been really good. All right, Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, I don't know. It's fun. It's a Guy Ritchie romp. You know, some characters have a fucking plot to pull off, or else a bad guy is going to do some stuff and they have to go undercover and have fake identities. And, you know, describing this movie, it's going to sound really, really just kind of plain and uninteresting. But I gotta say, this is one of those prime examples of where the movie, the best parts of the movies is all about and all within the nuance of the direction choices, the tone choices, the acting choices. Like, if you just read the script, I think on paper this movie would be really, really bland and boring, but because Guy Ritchie knows what he's doing, it's pretty good. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's got a very weird cast, a very strange, eclectic cast of characters and of people who you wouldn't think would go together, like fucking Aubrey Plaza is in this, and they're all great. Like, I really I thought the chemistry was one of the best parts of this movie. It's got some fun action sequences. You know, nothing amazing, but it's good. It's a little better than average, I would say, compared to these types of world, you know, globe-trotting heist movies. So I recommend it. Anybody who's into like action comedy, globe-trotting, spy type movies, definitely check this out. It's really fun. Yeah, dude, it's a fun one. Okay. The 6th movie I watched from the year, and I would say this earnestly, one of the most important movies I watched from the year, was a documentary called The Age of Easy Money. This movie is amazing. This movie is super amazing. If you want to, I put it this way to the people I've told about this documentary. It's just under 2 hours long. It's by PBS, so that, you know, they've always done really good work. They're publicly funded. They're not controlled by any fucking monopolies or conglomerates or government entities. And the way I would describe this movie is that it is a perfect, slightly under 2 hour distillation of exactly how and why the United States got to where we are now in terms of like money disparity and wealth disparity. And it's a full-on exposure of how both the Treasury, the federal government, and these stock traders on Wall Street, how all of them were partially guilty for kind of just orchestrating this huge system where essentially they discovered loopholes and they said, well, if we keep doing this, we can tell that everything's going to crash at some point. Like, infinite growth isn't sustainable, entropy and all that good stuff. It's not going to last. But we don't have to really worry about that. And if we want, we can just keep kind of moving things around internally so that we, the stock traders on Wall Street, make the most money and fuck everybody else. And fuck the housing market, fuck the stock market, as long as we're making our ends meet. And I mean, like, everybody knows this at this point, but I would recommend this in particular because it is a perfect beat-by-beat investigation, basically, of how the 2008 stock market crash happened, and, more importantly, how basically nothing has changed since then. And because nothing has changed in terms of, like, things improving and how the people who run and operate our country and our economy, because nothing has changed, this is just gonna happen again. And there's a good chance it'll happen soon, and it'll be fucking catastrophic, is basically the thesis of the documentary. So, yeah, America is a collapsing late-stage capitalist country, and China is probably going to become the #1 superpower if in the next, I don't know, couple decades, I would assume, if the U.S. continues on the path we're on. So. Oh, baby. Okay. Number 7. When I did my top 10 best movies of 2023, this next movie was in fact my favorite movie of the year. And that has not changed since we last did that podcast. So my number 7 movie of the year was John Wick 4. Oh my god. I already talked about this movie for like way too long on the podcast. I actually think next time I watch this, I think I might bump it up to 5 stars. It's a 4.5, but I gotta check it out again. Just a fucking perfect movie, man. Everything about the John Wick franchise firing on all cylinders. Somehow it's the longest movie, but it's also the best, and it has the highest amount of action scenes of any movie in the franchise, and it's just perfect, man. Perfect ending for John Wick's story. Perfect beyond insane action set pieces that I couldn't have imagined. It also has some bits that are pretty funny. Also, the characters and the emotion in the writing is the strongest it's ever been. So, yeah, dude, it's just incredible. Everyone needs to watch John Wick 4. The next movie I watched was Knock at the Cabin. Now, I have a very interesting relationship with M. Night Shyamalan, infamous director of such movies as Sixth Sense, The Village, Signs, Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Happening, Unbreakable, Split. So he's incredibly hit and miss. And I actually watched a really amazing YouTube video essay recently about M. Night Shyamalan that I think kind of put... It was like more than an hour long, and he went through every single movie by him, and he really kind of tried to find what makes him great. And I think what really works for me, and what I agree with in the thesis of that video, is that M. Night, when he's on, he's really, really excellent at directing like dramatic and meaningful and potent scenes of like family trauma, but then also like family love and family scenes of families like caring for one another. He's in his best moments and in his best movies, those are the scenes that really work. Like, you watch The Sixth Sense, man, dude, there are fucking scenes between the main kid and his mom in The Sixth Sense, and they are just some of the most like beautiful, wonderful, like cry your heart out scenes in like any movie, man. It's fucking beautiful when he captures true like love and family, the bonds between family members. When he captures that stuff, it's amazing. Signs as well, the entirety of Signs, all the way from start to finish, is filled with that kind of wonderful stuff. But so you know, when he strays away from that, like how he did with The Happening and The Village and Avatar: The Last Airbender, when he strays away from that, obviously it kind of falls apart. And I think The Knock at the Cabin, it's somewhere in the middle. It's like a 3.5 or a 3-star movie, but it's fun. The premise is a family, 2 men and their adopted daughter are on a vacation at a cabin in the woods, and then 4 people show up with weapons, and they say that one of you 3 people must die within the next day, and and if you don't do this, then the world will end. And that's the premise. And so the 4 strangers, they keep them hostage there, and they say that we are not allowed. We're just messengers. We're not allowed to kill you. One of you 3 has to die, and the other 2 have to kill that person, or he has to, like, I think maybe kill himself, or at least just like submit themselves to be killed. And you have to agree on who that is. And if you do that, the world will survive, and if you don't do that, the world will end. And that's the premise, and it's pretty compelling, man. Some beautiful cinematography. Dave Bautista, like, really, really fantastic performance from Dave Bautista. Really, actually, everybody in this. I'd say the acting overall is really fucking strong in this movie. It's very compelling. It all takes 100% of it takes place at this cabin. So it's kind of a bottle movie, aside from some shots of like the TV and what we see on the TV. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it's great. It's a great, tense, fun thrill ride with, actually, I will say, in terms of like M. Night Shyamalan having really strong emotional stakes, this is one of those movies where he does, by the end, there are pretty dang strong emotional stakes, and you really kind of care about what's going on. So yeah, it's great. Check it out, guys. The next movie I watched is called Plane. Probably the fucking worst titled movie of the year. It's gonna go pretty low, but I mean, I gave it a very light 3. You know, a fucking plane gets hijacked, and then the hijackers fucking force them to land the plane in like the middle of this jungle, and people have to fight and survive. That's it. It's I don't know. I don't know if I was paying great attention to it while I was watching it. It's exactly what you think. It's pretty dumb. It's pretty silly. But it's fun. So yeah, check it out. The next movie I watched was almost... Actually, we're going to find out. This might actually end up being one of my 10 worst movies of the year. It was another DC movie. Woo! Good job, DC. It's called Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham. So this is Batman in the 1920s, and Bruce Wayne is an explorer, like in the Arctic, and he unleashes some ancient evil. And he's like, he retired from Batman 20 years ago, but he has to become Batman again because of like the ancient evil, and I don't know. It was just like so boring, and a lot of the animation was really stiff and dull. Yeah, man, just DC doing their thing. I mean, honestly, this trailer makes it look pretty good. I kind of want to like try it again because I don't know. I feel like I don't remember any of this, but I must have finished it because I rated it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. It's just Batman with fantasy stuff, fighting demons and mummies. Like, come on, like, no, get that shit out of here. The next movie I watched was DC again. Shazam 2. It's totally average and forgettable. Cringy one-liners, action that's pretty boring and uninteresting. Honestly, the most exciting part of this movie was the fucking politics behind it, and the first one about how like Dwayne Johnson fucking like it was something like Dwayne Johnson like said that he has to be cast in this movie as Black Adam, and then he has to appear with Superman, and they have to fight, and Dwayne Johnson has to win the fight. And he was like something about like, if you don't do that, I'm gonna like halt this project or like quit or something. And he was just being a huge fucking baby about it. And like, this was actually 2023 was actually a great year because it was a year that Dwayne Johnson like had multiple like fucking pathetic baby tantrums on Instagram because his movies weren't doing well. And now he's like finally doing a movie with the Safdie brothers because he's like, all right, I suck now. I realize I suck now, and everyone thinks I'm washed up and lame. So I'm going to try to do something strange and interesting, which I think is a great call. I look forward to that. But man, I was really happy that this was the year that Dwayne Johnson like fucking got not canceled, but he was just like, everyone just sees him as a big phony now. He's just so fucking fake, and his movies are so goddamn repetitive and boring and milquetoast fucking average baby boy bullshit. And I'm not even talking about Shazam. That's how uninteresting Shazam is. So yeah, it's gonna go pretty low, I guess. Probably like right there or something. What did I rate this? Oh, I gave it a 1.5, yeah, or 2.5. Okay. Next up, another one of my top 10 worst movies of the year. Man, we are just cranking through the bad ones. Woohoo! This movie is called 65, and it is currently the worst movie of the year. So this movie is about Adam Driver in a spaceship, and he like goes through a wormhole, and he ends up 65 million years in the past, and there are dinos on the planet, but also there's a little kid, and she doesn't speak, and he has to become a father figure to the little kid and take care of her, but he is a soldier and he only knows how to be a gruff, strong, silent soldier and be the gruff, strong, silent soldier and be the gruff, strong, silent soldier, and he doesn't know how to be a daddy or take care of a kid, and it's silly and funny and there's dinosaurs. I think one of the best criticisms I saw of this movie is that the concept for this is so ridiculous and like silly, and it should be like lighthearted and fun, but Adam Driver is such a serious dramatic actor that there's like a scene where I think he's like sinking in quicksand or something, and it's like, it's like quicksand was one of those things that was all over, like, late 80s and 90s movies. It was like one of those things of like, oh, as a kid I thought quicksand was going to be a much bigger problem as an adult, but it turns out it doesn't really exist except for these remote areas of the world. And so like quicksand, I feel like is kind of meant, it should be like a fun kind of peril trap, and so, he falls in quicksand, he's like sinking or something, and he's just like overacting his fucking heart out in this silly fucking dumbass dinosaur movie, and he's like sinking into quicksand. It's supposed to be like a fun kids movie peril scene, and he's like, it's just like, it's like so incredibly over dramatic, and it makes you fucking laugh because it's so stupid. So yeah, that's easily my current worst movie of the year with the lineup we have. The next movie I saw this year was the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Yeah, it's pretty mediocre. The animation is really good. That's kind of it. I think the voice cast, for the most part, does an okay to good job. I did think Jack Black was really fun. Peach was pretty good, I guess. Luigi wasn't in it very much. Chris Pratt was fine. But, the humor was just so, like, annoying and flat and uninspired, and the plot development and where they went with it. Like, the world building was really unjustified. Like, I was going into it, I was interested to see, like, to see what they were going to do in terms of making this world, like, alive and believable. And a lot of it is just really unjustified. It's like, oh, here's okay, Mario, you need to practice and warm up for your adventures. So here's a course from Mario 1. Just do this course like 100 times until you memorize it, okay? And then that's what happens. It's like, I thought they were gonna like kind of I thought they were gonna like bring in a way for them to justify why there were just blocks floating around the world and why there were question blocks. But the only thing they could come up with is, here's a course from a Mario game, do this course. And it's like, what? Like that's the only thing you could come up with, is just to say that it's there. So yeah, it's pretty boring, it's pretty dumb. It looks pretty cool though, so that's about it. The next movie I watched, Evil Dead Rise. This is definitely one of the best movies of the year. I think this is probably going to end up in my top 15. It was in my top 10 for quite a while. Yeah, just man, it's just really fun. It's so much fun, man. People getting possessed, tons of crazy fucked up body horror. Lots of wonderful cinematography choices. I think the actors are all really strong. It knows when to be silly and when to be serious. It's actually genuinely pretty fucking scary at times as well. Yeah, dude. Like, I've seen all the Evil Dead movies at this point, and I gotta say, this is like one of the. I think all. Well, first off, I should say I think all of the Evil Dead movies are great, and like there really hasn't been a bad entry in the series at all yet. And like if you're into these movies, just fucking check this out, man. It's fucking awesome. It's so much fun. You know what? I think I'm gonna put this at number 2 for now. Wowee. Evil Dead 2, yeah, I think most people seem to say that one's the best. I haven't watched 1 and 2 in a long time. I watched 3 a few times recently. I think 3 is the weakest, but I really loved 4 and 5. I believe this is 5 now. Evil Dead Rise. The next movie I watched, it was another winner. Infinity Pool. This movie, it's one of those crazy, kooky, artsy movies. So the premise for this is pretty interesting. I believe it takes place in like a fictional Scandinavian country, I think. And the premise is that there are these 4 super wealthy, elite Westerners who like go to this country for a vacation. And then one night, one of them kills someone while drunk driving. And so all 4 of them get taken, to the police fucking station, and they gotta explain what happened. Is it a vampire from True Blood? Oh. But then, so what makes this a spooky sci-fi premise is they get to the police station and they get interrogated. And this guy shows up in the interrogation. He's like, all right, so I have an offer for you. So we can either execute you, or you can pay us, I think it's like $250,000. You can pay us a huge amount of money, and we'll let you off, but in your place, instead of you being executed, we're going to clone you, and we are going to hold a public execution for your clone, and we're going to blame the crime on that clone. So the clone will be brought into life, it'll be alive for a few days, and then it'll be executed. And another catch, you must be present at the execution. You must watch your clone be executed. And so he chooses that option, of course, and I won't tell you what happens next, but it's really fucked up. Yeah, it's definitely one of those political commentary movies making fun of the rich, portraying them as evil psychopaths, and just very, very interesting performance. Great performances all around. Mia Goth from X and Pearl is in it, and she's fucking unhinged. But yeah, really, really great movie. I feel like if I watch this again, I gave it a 3.5, but I feel like if I watch it again, knowing what the premise is, I might bump it up to a 4. and it's called Infinity Poo. The next movie I watched was one that the public seemed very happy about, but I could barely pay attention. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. You know what? I think this one deserves a rewatch from me. I really just found it so bland. It's kind of dull. Not a lot to it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just really didn't get the hype for this. I really hate it when, and I guess I understand it makes sense for Dungeons and Dragons, but I hate it when movies are in a fantasy setting and characters are saying things like, "Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that." That type of fucking dialogue. Like just really modern, tropey, dumb reference dialogue. I don't know. I feel like I probably need to rewatch it. Like everyone really enjoyed this one. The effects are pretty great for sure, but I don't know. I think I just found the entire premise really like kind of annoying. So I don't know. We'll see. And I gave this a 2. Even thinking on it now, that feels harsh, but like I don't know, maybe sometimes you're just kind of a little curmudgeon about stuff. I guess I'll put it there for now. Like I would rather watch this than Mario, and I guess I would rather watch this than Plane as well. I guess I'll bump it up to a 2.5 at least. The next movie I watched was The Pope's Exorcist. It was really silly and kind of dumb, and I don't remember fucking anything about it. So it's getting a low ranking. I really kind of hate exorcism movies. They're all the same. The next movie I watched was one of my top 10 worst movies of the year. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Guy Ritchie's on here twice. Once for Operation Fortune, which is pretty good, and then also for this. Yeah, it's just a really fucking gross, pandering military propaganda. Really bland, really uninspired. About 2 soldier bros. And one soldier bro is in trouble, and so the other soldier bro has to go back because no one gets left behind. Soldier bro. It sucks. Fucking fuck the military-industrial complex. Defund the fuck out of that shit. The next movie I watched was Murder Mystery 2 with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Another one of my worst movies of the year. Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler play like really prolific sleuths, really prolific investigators, and they're going on a vacation, and then like a murder happens and they have to solve it, and it's they have to do a bunch of dumb stuff. There's a lot of dumb gags that don't work, that aren't funny. It's really tired. A lot of people aren't really trying very hard. It's just not interesting. It looks okay. I don't know what the fuck to say about this. It just sucks. It just fucking sucks. So it's getting a low rating. Murder Mystery 2. The next movie I watched is one of my probably top 15 best movies of the year. And you know it's gotta be Guardians of the Galaxy 3! Yes! Easily one of the best movies of the year, and one of the best Marvel movies. This is the final installment for, I believe, most of these characters. It seems like they're going to do more Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but most of these characters will be retired from the series, and they're going to have new Guardians, mostly, with a couple carryovers from the original team. I won't spoil who stays and who goes, but yeah, man, this is excellent, just so stylish. It kept going in directions I didn't see coming. The character interactions are really strong. There's wonderful chemistry. The sets, oh my gosh, the sets, the makeup, the costumes, all of the practical effects, the fights, the choreography, it's all there, man. It's all this wonderful, practical, crazy, wacky shit. It's very silly, but at the same time, it's very scary, and a lot of the scenes are really incredibly dark, like incredibly dark. Of course, these movies are known for their soundtrack, so the music is great. The characters are great. It's a great ending to this trilogy, man. It's just fucking awesome. Everybody should watch Guardians 3. Go check it out. The next movie I watched from 2023 was another good one called Blackberry. This is a biopic, the story of the two main guys who founded BlackBerry and made the phone, and how they got totally murdered by Apple and the iPhone. Glenn from Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in this. He's one of the main protagonists, and he's an asshole, but he's fucking fantastic. He's probably the best part of the movie. Like, the character doesn't just feel like it's, like a transplant of Dennis from Always Sunny. It actually feels very unique and very real. And but he's also very funny. I mean, everyone's great. Yeah, very standard biopic. You know what you're gonna get. It's a story of the people who made BlackBerry and how they got fucked. But also how they were kings for I don't know, I guess 5-10 years or something before that happened. It's good. The next movie I watched also might be a top 15 contender of the year, Asteroid City. Oh yeah. Now that's a fucking movie. Most of Wes Anderson's films I don't really care for. Most of the time I've found his style to be too dry and too static and not interesting enough to engage with fully. But I've got to say, this movie, Asteroid City, came out in 2023. It's my favorite Wes Anderson film. This is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's very sweet. I believe it was one of our top 10s of the year. Justin's, I believe it might have been his top 10 of the year. Number 10. Very sweet, very funny. Great characters, great cast, great acting, great writing. It's just a good time, man. Everyone does an excellent job. I would say if you already strongly dislike Wes Anderson, you're probably not going to like this. But I have not liked most of his movies, and I had a great time with this one. So if you're I would say if you're kind of 50-50 on Wes Anderson, you should see this. But if you are really firm on not liking his style, then probably not going to work for you. The next movie I watched was the greatest movie of all time, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Nothing to say about this. It's fucking Transformers. It's definitely much better than the Michael Bay movies, but not by a whole lot. It's Transformers and they're animals, and they gotta fight the bad guys, and a couple humans help them. There's a scene where a human character, like, there's like an Autobot that there's like one of the Transformers that like wraps itself around a human, and then the human basically uses, like, pilots the Transformer as a mech. So like the human is like, it's like a small Transformer, so it's like a little bit bigger than a human from what I remember. And so like I think it's that one, yeah. And so like he's basically, the main character is wearing the Transformer as a suit of armor, and the human is fighting while the Transformer is like on his person, and that was fucking sick, dude. That was sick as fuck. But, you know, it's standard fare. Robots killing each other. Looks pretty cool. I had a fun time. The next movie I watched from this year was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Oh my fucking god. I've already talked about this movie. It was one of my top 10s of the year. I think it was my number 3. So, yeah, it's fucking incredible. We talked about it for a long time on the podcast, so I don't really have much to say. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Voice actors are amazing. It does things I've never seen before in a movie. Soundtrack is outstanding. So damn good. That's fucking right. Dreamy, when you think back on Across the Spider-Verse, what scenes stand out to you? I'm curious. Oh shit. Dude, the next movie I watched after this was my worst movie of the year. My worst movie of 2023 is The Flash. Incredibly annoying, way too long. The CG animation looks gross and ugly and hideous. Ezra Miller is incredibly obnoxious. Ezra Miller is also a bad, abusive, maybe like sociopathic person IRL who has had like several basic like public breakdowns where they fought people and kidnapped like a 14-year-old and like forced her to do drugs. So Ezra Miller is like a terrible person. No one should ever support anything they do. I did not pay for this movie. I don't think anyone else should. It's a terrible fucking movie, in addition to being you know, in addition to being a conduit for the success of one of those actors who's actually like a pretty bad person. So, yeah, do not watch The Flash. Fuck you, Ezra Miller. The scene where he gets chased by all the Spider-Mans, dude, yeah, that is definitely like probably the biggest spectacle of the movie. It's so crazy. The next movie I watched was one of my best movies of the year, and I have nothing to say about it because it's like, it's either the first or second most talked about movie of the year that everyone saw, everyone knows about it. It's Oppenheimer. I believe it was my 5th best movie of the year. Everybody knows about it. Big bomb, Chris Nolan. It's great. Check it out. The next movie I watched was the other half of the Oppenheimer summer spectacle, Barbie. I also talked about this on the Top 10 podcast. It's really fun. It's really pretty to look at. The whole cast does a great job. It's single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, but it's one of the best comedies of like the decade, I would say. In a decade that's been pretty fucking awful for comedy movies. So yeah, Barbie rules right now. It's currently my number 3 of the year. With this list, we'll see where it ends up by the time the list is done. Barbie rules. Okay, here's a good one I could talk about that I have not talked about very much. Beau is Afraid. This is one of, and I really mean this is one of those movies where the filmmaker is kind of trying to say fuck you to the audience like as hard as possible, and in a way that really works, surprisingly. Beau is Afraid. So the director has described this movie as a nightmare comedy, which I fully agree with that description. It's 3 hours long, and the only thing you really need to know about the premise, it's very funny. It's simultaneously incredibly funny, and also one of, like, for certain people, this will also maybe be one of like the scariest movies they've ever seen. It's incredibly unique. It's very thoughtful. It's just unbelievably fucking twisted and weird. There really isn't much of a premise other than Joaquin Phoenix is the main character, and basically his character is the personification of undying and tormenting anxiety. Like, it's just like, if you're the type of person who has severe anxiety about a lot of things in life, then this movie might give you a panic attack. It's very fictionalized. Some of the sequences are actually full-on fantasy sequences, like the one that just came on screen right now. And the entire point is really just to like kind of explore what the world it would be like through the lens of someone who has the worst anxiety in the world, and everything that could possibly go wrong does. Like, in every single scene, in every situation this character gets into, if there's a chance that things will go wrong, it does go wrong. Because the point is, like, again, it's about anxiety, and it's about, like, how does it feel? How would it feel to have the worst anxiety attack imaginable, where things just keep getting worse and 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 worse. It's crazy, dude. It's 3 hours long. It's not for everybody. And I have to emphasize this. It has one of the biggest fuck you endings of all time. I really mean that. Like, there is a scene that will happen close to the end of the movie, and you'll be like, okay, fuck this. And you'll also be laughing your ass off. It's crazy, dude. So, next movie I saw, it's really average and boring. It was Tetris. It's more interesting than I thought it was going to be, I'll give it that. I didn't know that a big part of the Tetris lore and history is that, like, the guy who created the first version of it was from, like, the USSR, and then the people who wanted to publish it and like develop it into a full game were in the US, I think. And so it ends up being about how the US government or whatever publisher, if it was like Atari or whatever, the first big like gaming publisher to get their hands on Tetris, it's about the legal battle and the social battle about like the Soviet Russian government trying to legally control Tetris so that they can just like use it as you know, so they can get all the profits from it and just kind of keep it in Soviet Russia forever, but then this American comes along and tries to get it, into the US and into the US market, into the world market. And it's about that legal battle that happened and how, at certain points, kind of seemed like maybe the Soviets were going to try to kill the American guy who was trying to get the rights to Tetris. So, it's pretty interesting. It's definitely, I mean, the story is way, way more interesting than I ever would have thought it was. So I'll give it that. But I think it was just like too long and a little too slow. So it's not bad. Next movie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Unfortunately, this is, I think, one of the weakest Mission Impossible movies, probably the second or third weakest. However, it's still a good movie. It's fun. Got some outstanding action romps. Pacing's great. Fights are great. Looks cool. It's never annoying. So what more can you ask for from good old Mission Impossible? One of the strongest film franchises of all time, for real. Like, there just are not a whole lot. There's only one bad movie, and I think now there's been 7 or 8, and genuinely only one of them is bad. Like, that's fucking crazy. How the track record of this series of how good it is. And again, this is like probably the second worst movie, but it's still not a bad movie at all. There's only one movie that's actually like bad. So definitely check it out. It's really fun. Another movie I saw after this one was Creed 3. And this is one I need to revisit because I'll be honest, I just kind of I couldn't remember very much about it. I think I put this movie on like 3 different times to try to get through it. I mean, I gave it a good rating because it deserves it, but I don't know. I just couldn't I couldn't keep myself super invested in the movie. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The next movie is probably a top 15 movie of the year, and that movie was The Creator. So imagine this movie is basically like a combination of Ghost in the Shell, District 9, and something else. There was some other property this movie really reminded me of. But yeah, mainly District 9 and Ghost in the Shell. That's actually like the premise. It's like a world where there's a bunch of robots, and the robots have intelligence and they have consciences, and the first ever reported case of a child robot based like of a child being born who's like half robot. The first ever reported case of it happening, like, it has happened, and it's about, this guy who is part of the federal intergalactic government who goes to abduct the child, but then realizes that the government is bad and he switches sides. And like, I would say the story is very predictable. And in terms of like just the general arc plot progression, there's not really a lot here that's very surprising. But man, I gotta say, the emotions behind this were super raw. I cried at the end. The characters are pretty cool. The designs are really cool. There are a few really, really fucking awesome action scenes. And also, like, the political messaging is actually like really strong. It's like a very, very strong leftist message. Like incredibly leftist, and I really love that for it. So yeah, I gotta watch this again, man. Like the characters and the dialogue are not like super strong, and the story isn't super original, but it's one of those movies where the nuance and the details of everything and the design and the emotion of everything is really fucking good. So I definitely recommend it for fans of science fiction. The Creator, one of my top probably 15 best movies of the year. Right now it's number 5. Holy shit. We'll see how I feel as the list goes on. Next we have No Hard Feelings. The premise is a young man is getting ready to go off to college, and he's been like a virgin. I think he's like never had a girlfriend in his whole life. And Jennifer Lawrence is like down on her luck, and her car just got repoed and she needs a new car. And so she makes a deal with the parents of this kid, because the parents want their kid to go to college like not a virgin. They want him to have like that experience before he goes to college so he can socially fit in more. And so they hire Jennifer Lawrence to date him and take his virginity. And look, I mean, I'll say it. I'm going to say something super original about this movie that I don't think anyone has brought up, but like, I'm going to be honest, the main thing that kept me in this movie and kept me glued from beginning to end is Jennifer Lawrence. And it's one, she's quite funny, she's quite compelling, but you know, I mean, it's one of those movies where the whole premise is that she's incredibly hot. Like that's supposed to be part of the premise. And you know, she's cool. And I like her. So she was compelling to watch, I'll say that. There's a few good scenes. The kid who plays her opposite is pretty good. But yeah, it's all right. Kind of turns a pandering in the end. Lots of hard feelings. The next movie I watched was Old Dads. This is Bill Burr. Bill Burr wrote this movie, he directed this movie, and he starred in this movie. And it's pretty close to one of the worst movies of the year. Oh yeah. Old Dads, it's about Bill Burr complaining about shit that he doesn't like, but then he realizes he's being an asshole and he needs to go to therapy so he can save his marriage and not lose his kids. And it's like, okay. Seen it a million times, but it's not very funny, it's not very original. It's pretty annoying, it's incredibly pandering. Yeah, it just really kind of sucks. A lot of it just really sucks. And that is Old Dads. I'm gonna put that, I guess, right around here. Next up, one of my top 10 best movies of the year, so I won't say too much about it. TMNT, Mutant Mayhem. Looks amazing. Voice cast is amazing. It's incredibly fun. It's incredibly sweet. The characters are a blast. The story's pretty good. It's just a phenomenal animated movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Check it out. I didn't even pull up the trailer because I didn't have time. Next up, my number 2 worst movie of the year, Ghosted. So this movie is absolutely just incomprehensible. It's some of the most awkward line deliveries I've ever encountered in my life. I'm talking like almost on the level of The Room. where it feels like the characters and the writing and the direction, none of it can agree on exactly what the tone should be. I think Ana de Armas is like horrible in this, like truly horrible. Chris Evans is bad. I do think I feel like at least he kind of is aware of what kind of movie this is, and I feel like he's just kind of cashing in for a paycheck, and that's fine, you know. I'm fine with that. Like, he's so plastic / wooden, whichever you want to prefer. Just the most fucking dull, boring milquetoast, fucking average, unlikable, uninteresting romantic lead ever. And and by the way, the premise I didn't even mention is that Ana de Armas is secretly like a CIA agent who goes on crazy missions, and Chris Evans gets wrapped up in her crazy missions, but he's just an average guy. But yeah, honestly, I feel like one of the biggest things that worked against this movie was that Ana de Armas's delivery is so horrible. Like, her line deliveries are some of the worst I've ever seen. She's fucking terrible. And that is Ghosted, my second worst movie of the year. The next movie I saw was also one of my top 10 best movies of the year. I think this was my number 10. But you know what? You know what, guys? I actually think, I don't know, I kind of want to bump this out of my top 10 and replace it with The Creator. Or even Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know. I should keep it. It's no, The Creator, because Creator actually has issues. The Killer really doesn't have. There's really nothing bad about The Creator. It's just about personal preference. Yeah, it's David Fincher apparently making fun of himself. Even just as a standalone movie, it's pretty funny. A lot of fun. The pacing's excellent. Has one of the best like hand-to-hand fight scenes I've ever seen. In the big loud house with the huge walls, and also my favorite artist of all time, Nine Inch Nails, did the soundtrack for it, so of course you know it's gonna be good, baby. It's The Killer, David Fincher. I already talked about it on the top 10, so we don't need to say much. The next movie I watched was Bottoms, a new raunchy high school teen comedy from Rachel Sennott, or Seno. Yeah, this movie is incredibly silly, man, in the best possible way. It really goes hard with the ridiculousness. There are a lot of like little skits and bits within the movie that work. Lots of fun, like crazy world building. All the performers are excellent. This was a good year for comedy movies, which is unusual considering the past decade. The past decade of comedy movies has been awful, and this year was a return to form for the most part. We had a few great ones, and this was definitely one of the best comedies of the year. Check it out if you really like Rachel Sennott and her style of humor. Producers are Pitch Perfect. There you go. And Cocaine Bear. That movie, I didn't see that, but that movie seemed fucking terrible. I watched some reviews of it. I'm not going to watch that shit. The next movie I watched from the year was Saw X. Look, folks, you know what you're going to get with Saw X. If you've seen any of the Saw movies, you've seen them all. Cool traps, cool kills, lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of screaming, and best part of all, and I'm not even kidding you. You're going to think I'm joking, but I'm really not. In this movie, they put a fucking 8-year-old in a saw trap. It's fucking awesome. Like, finally, kill those fucking kids, you know? Saw X, the only movie that killed a kid this year. Go check it out. The next movie of the year that I loved and was one of my top 10 movies of the year was Godzilla -1. We already talked. All three of us had this on our top 10s of the year, so I really have nothing to say or add. Yeah, it's fucking amazing. One of the best Godzilla movies of all time. The CG looks unbelievable. Like, there are scenes where you're going to be like, wait, that was CG? Yeah, that was CG. That couldn't have been CG. Oh, it was. But also the writing is excellent. The characters are very lovable. And they bring a perfect amount of melodrama and serious dramatic acting. The spectacle is crazy. Godzilla is one of the scariest versions of Godzilla I think we've ever had, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, Godzilla, man. It's fucking incredible. Everyone's been talking about it. If you haven't seen Godzilla -1, you gotta go check it out. Next was Gran Turismo. So something kind of cool about this movie, I'll give it props, is that this is a true story of this guy who worked for, I don't know about racing. I don't know shit about racing. He worked for like the one of those drag racing companies or whatever. And he's like, hey, what if we took a bunch of teenagers or like young adults who are really, really good at the Gran Turismo video game, and then we put them in real cars and get them to really race each other. IRL, like racing against the pros. And this is a true story. This really happened. And dude, there are like I was expecting this to just be one of those movies where like, okay, he learns to race, he gets in the car, he drives the fucking race, he doesn't win, but it's okay because he had a good experience at the end. Like, that's what I was expecting. Nah, dude. From what I remember, there are 2 catastrophic car crashes in this movie, which is a fucking true story. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now I see why this is a true story. Like, there are 2 different times where someone's car gets fucked up, like fire, explosions, spins, and I was like, okay, well, now I see why they told this story. So, like, it's actually fucking crazy that this happened in retrospect. Like, one of the fucking most dangerous sports imaginable, and they just put some fucking gamers behind the wheel, and guess what happened? They fucking crashed and burned. It's fucking crazy. So, I mean, spoilers, but if that makes you more interested in it, then I do check it out, because it did make the story more harrowing for sure. It was actually not bad. Where's Gran Turismo? Did I not add it? No, I definitely did. I'm blind right now. Oh, it's right there. I see it. Yeah, I think I might put this about there. Alright, I'm actually gonna take a little smoke break for like a couple minutes, play an ad, and then let's keep going. We are halfway through the list. Actually, we're more than halfway. Oh, cool. Okay, I'm making good time. We're more than halfway. We've got, looks like 22, got 22 movies left. I'm gonna take a little break, be right back.
look into the future.
And we're back. One of my top 10 favorite movies of the year, undoubtedly, was The Boy and the Heron. Like millions of other people across the globe, I have a very special and personal relationship with Hayao Miyazaki's films. I can't remember if it was Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke was the first one that I saw. It was one of them. I believe it was Princess Mononoke, but Princess Mononoke has remained my favorite anime film of all time since I saw it. And, of course, mostly it's only it's the other Ghibli movies that really come close to it. The animation and the artistry it's just unbelievable how spectacular and gorgeous and soulful the stylings and the color choices are, and the character designs, and just a lot of the even like social and political commentary about environmentalism and the relationship between parents and children and guardians and children. Talking about his movies in general, not just Boy and the Heron. So this one was a very, very emotional experience for me, man. I didn't quite love it immediately after I first saw it, but the more that I have thought about it, the more I like it. And I've only seen it once. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing it again. And I don't know. I might go up to like a 4.5 or a 5-star by then. We'll see. But yeah, Boy and the Heron. It's exceptionally beautiful. It's my number 2 favorite movie of the year. The next movie I saw was also one of my top 10 best movies of the year. I think this was like number 8. And that is May December. So we talked about this for quite a long time on the podcast, so I'm not going to talk very long about it now. But for anyone who missed it, I'll just put it like this. The premise of this movie is that decades ago, from before when the movie started, there was a public school teacher who was in her, I believe, late 20s, early 30s. And she had sex with one of her 14-year-old students. And then they got married. And now, in the present, like, I think 15 or 20 years later, an actress played by Natalie Portman is being hired to make a document or a biopic movie about this family and about this twisted relationship where a 30-year-old woman was impregnated by a 14-year-old boy, and then they got married and had more kids together. And it's an exploration of their relationship. It's an exploration of how older people, regardless of sex, a lot of the time, can just have power over younger people, and it's an exploration of what kind of personality and what kind of person would, fucking want to get impregnated by a 14-year-old boy when they're 30 years old. It's an exploration of that kind of like, maybe like emotional, underdevelopment that someone would have to possess to do those types of things. And are you ready for this? Here's the kicker. Everything I said, excluding the part about the actress, everything I said is a true story. This movie is not. This movie is a fictionalized version of a true story, where the whole thing with the actress that doesn't happen, but the whole thing with a 30-year-old woman getting impregnated by a 14-year-old boy and then marrying him and having multiple kids with him, that's a true story. That happened. It was a big fucking deal. I didn't know anything about this until I saw this movie, but then that turns out that's what the premise is based on. It's a true story. So, just know when you go into it, if you watch this, that it is unfortunately, at least the genesis and the basic premise is true. And the people who it's based on, I think, complained, obviously. The next movie I watched from the year was another decent comedy called The Blackening. This was pretty good. So, if it wasn't completely fucking obvious from the title, the premise of this is that it's like 6 or 7 black friends all going on a trip together, and then there's like this crazy serial killer who puts them in like these situations that are kind of a parody of like Saw traps, but they have to answer really racist questions. And if the answers they give are like racist, then they live, and if the answers they give are like not racist enough, then they're killed. It's pretty fucking funny. Honestly, for me, like the parts that made me laugh were like, so like the premise is that they're playing a board game and they have to draw a card and answer a question, and like one of the questions, like for example, has to do with like it was like which actor played this role on a one time on an obscure episode of Friends, and then they're all like, nah dude, we never watched Friends, and like the correct answer was supposed to be, we don't watch Friends, we're black, but one of them obviously is lying, and they're like, nah dude, I'm obsessed with Friends, like I know this answer. And so like they and one I think one of the questions is who here is the blackest. You all have to agree, and it's like if you don't agree within 60 seconds, we kill one of you. And so they all get like in this fucking ego contest about who is and is not the blackest. But and like I don't know, it sounds very typical. It sounds very like kind of typical of like the Tyler Perry like kind of schlocky black comedy movies. But this one's actually like good. Like the writing is very strong. The jokes and the gags are great. The performances are wonderful. It's very funny, very original. Lots of great commentary about like modern society, American society. So yeah. Really good time. It's great for also it's a horror movie, so it's like also a great Halloween movie if you want to do something funny on Halloween. Definitely recommended. Oh, it came out on June 16th. That's funny. Okay. Next movie I saw was Renfield. Another Halloween time movie. So unfortunately, there's really only like a couple things about this movie that's really good. And I would say what's really good about this movie are the makeup and the prosthetics for the horror sequences and the body horror. They look fantastic. A lot of the set design's really good. The costumes are good. A lot of the blood and guts looks really good, but I just find the premise and the dialogue pretty annoying. Awkwafina is in it, and like Awkwafina is good, but when she's in a comedy, she's so one note. She just kind of does. She's just being herself. Like I never buy her as like really acting, aside from what was that movie? The Farewell. Like in a dramatic role, she's really good, but like I just find in comedy she's like doing the same thing, or it's just like herself. So I find her annoying. Nicolas Cage is great. Nicholas Hoult. I don't know. I kind of also just like. I have a weird, some people have things where they're like, this certain actor just bugs me and I don't know why. I have that with Nicholas Hoult. And I guess I do think he's a good actor, but I don't know if I like believe it when I say it. I don't know. I just, something about me, I just can't, I just don't like him. I don't know. And I don't think he deserves that. I really don't. But I don't know. So yeah, Renfield, it's fine. It's like a light 3, Like again, the prosthetics, the makeup, if you're really into body horror stuff and vampire body, crazy body horror stuff, like it's pretty fucking cool. But, the writing is fine. It's fine. Probably put it right there. Awkwafina wait, what? Awkwafina was in Little Mermaid? Was she? Oh, she wasn't. Oh, I didn't know she was in that. Yeah, I didn't see that. So I'm really fucking glad I didn't see that. She was in that? God damn. The next movie I watched was Killers of the Flower Moon. We talked about this for a good while on the podcast. My best, I would say, probably my best dramatic performance of the year I would give to Lily Gladstone. And like, she alone is worth it to see this movie. Definitely. It's also a very important piece of of both American and Native American history. I think Robert De Niro, this is also one of my favorite De Niro performances. I was really expecting, like, honestly, when I went into this, I was like, okay, Robert De Niro is so prolific, there's no way that he could possibly give a new performance that I haven't seen yet. Like, I really believe that going in, and then I was so fucking surprised because this performance actually was like very unique. Like, the way his character in particular shifts and the sides of him you see over the course of the movie was like definitely like my second favorite performance. But Lily Gladstone, she's easily like probably my favorite dramatic performance of the year. I gotta say, guys, Leo DiCaprio I thought was a bit much this movie, and I can't believe I'm saying that because I don't know if I've ever really disliked a Leo performance, but I just thought he was a little too Leo. I don't know if that makes sense. He was just a little too much for this movie, and it seems like most people love him. But no, it is good. Like, I don't know, it's weird because I feel like it is a good performance, but it's just like it's something's lacking. And I know that's kind of the point of the character, is that he's very simple, but like, I don't know. Anyway, it's amazing. Amazing, beautiful movie. Everybody needs to watch it. And I think, let's see, where's it gonna go? Where's it gonna go? Boom, 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 boom. Wait, what's happening? This movie is higher than I originally put it. Oh my God, I think the top 10 is changing, folks. Now that I'm really reviewing every movie one by one, I think the top 10 is changing for the year. Can you believe it? Welcome back, G-Money. I did not see Wonka, unfortunately. And I would like to. I think I will see it, but I did not get to see it before this list. I'm thinking about Killers of the Flower Moon now. Yeah, I think I might have to bump The Killer out of my top 10, everybody. I think I like this more. The top 10 has changed. Can you believe it? All right. Next movie I saw from 2023 is one of my top 10 worst movies of the year. Leave the World Behind. This is some fucking neoliberal boomer, scary, anti-Trump propaganda. And like, you know, I fucking hate Trump, but the neoliberals are not really doing us a whole lot of good these days either. I just couldn't believe that I thought Julia Roberts was like terrible in this. Basically, like, I don't know, the premise is that like the society is starting to collapse, and and it's just like from the perspective of this really wealthy American family, and I don't know, but the societal collapse part is like really vague. Yeah, cyber attack. So it's the whole movie. It's just these people like in rooms or in buildings, just talking and being afraid. Like, it's all build up and no payoff. Like, nothing really like happens, and it's super pandering. It's like politically just like really kind of like lazy and obvious and propagandic. So yeah, this fucking sucks, man. And it looks like it's going to be my third worst movie of the year. The next movie I watched, the next two movies I watched were a couple of very good sci-fi horror movies. The first one was No One Will Save You. So this is one of the most simple premises of the entire year. the premise is it is a silent film, and I mean silent as in no dialogue. So there's sound effects and music and characters like gasping and like yelling and stuff, but there's no dialogue for the entire movie, not a single line. And the premise is a young woman is home alone when aliens invade. And that's it. It's really simple. And she hides from the aliens and she's got to run away. The aliens are pretty cool. Their designs are really fun. They're really weird and wacky, but also like but you know, they're trying to kill her, so they're very scary as well. They're like kind of funny though. But there are a few sequences that are very fucking terrifying for sure. So yeah, go check it out. No dialogue, so you don't have to worry about like any fucking overdone character development or any of that shit. You just watch it and it's fun and it's good. Alien story about aliens invading. No one will save you. All right, so I think I'm gonna put that higher than that for sure. I think I'm gonna put it right there. The next movie I watched was, like I said, another sci-fi horror movie, Mithrigan. Dude, Mithrigan fucking ruled. This movie was so much fun. Kind of like a pretty interesting portrayal of like an adoptive parent who didn't want kids but had to because her sister died and now she has to adopt her niece. So like it's kind of like an interesting portrayal and a unique portrayal of that dynamic of this mother figure who's doing her best, but she's just simply, and I relate to her on this level, she just simply does not have like the motherly gene. Like it's just like she's a good person and she's doing her best, but it's just not there. Like she just fucking doesn't have the motherly instinct. And she didn't want kids, and so she's like a super famous like millionaire inventor, and so she invents a robot called Mithrigan. And I think it's also so Mithrigan becomes the girl's like new best friend, and it's supposed to be like a therapy device, but then Mithrigan gets weird and spooky and maybe starts killing people. And that's the premise, but it's great. It's like the characters are really good. Mithrigan is very compelling to watch. Like over the course of the movie, she actually like genuinely develops a personality. I really felt like I watched her from the beginning to the end, like really kind of like grow as an entity. Like she really gained her own kind of, in a small way, but her own real personality, and it made her more alive and more real, and just like, and it makes her a good character. And like I feel like actually I actually think this character would be really fucking good as a slasher character that returns for more movies. And like you can do different iterations of her, and you can like you could do different things where you bring her back from the dead in really silly ways, and she's like unkillable, but she loves her best friend, whoever her best friend is. And I think a lot of that, everything about this premise really sounds very just kind of simple and silly and dumb and like it's been done before. But it's one of those movies where the details and the individual direction and creative choices were so unique and wonderful that it really made for a very fun, compelling sci-fi horror movie. I think everybody should check out Mithrigan. And I'm gonna put Mithrigan all the way up at, oh my god, Probably number 13. Mithrigan earns one of the highest placements. The next movie I watched was the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, baby. Woo-hoo! All right, so I feel like, given how this has been Taylor's year more than anyone else's year, I got to give you my context on my relationship with her work. And I'm really not a fan. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I'll say this. I think her lyrics are very strong, and they come from a very true and authentic place. But musically, I just don't find her interesting to listen to. So color me surprised when I kind of fucking loved this concert video, man. Like, it's 3 goddamn hours long. This was also a year of 3-hour movies, I want to say. Oppenheimer, Taylor Swift, Killers of the Flower Moon, John Wick was like, I think almost like 2.5 hours. So. And for an action movie, it's pretty long. Anyway, Taylor Swift. Yeah, man, I think Taylor Swift, I'm gonna put her at like fucking, I don't know, I might do like number 16. It was really good. There's like because she's going through every era of her music, and so there's a very clear narrative arc. And I gotta say, man, the fucking set designs and the special effects that she used for during her, like, you know, to like separate and categorize the different eras, like the different set designs were like maybe my favorite part of the show. They looked so fucking cool, and the cinematography is amazing. The way they captured her is so cinematic, and you can if you were to watch this like on a really big like 4K TV, it would look fucking beautiful, like just completely stunning. So it's gorgeous to look at. Obviously the music's great, it's fun, there's a strong narrative, there's tons of costumes and sets and dancers and little bits and like musical, like show tune kind of numbers. It's crazy, man. Even if you don't like Taylor Swift, like I don't like Taylor Swift, and I'm not gonna listen to her music after this, but I thought this was great. So I kind of think everybody should maybe just give it a try. The next movie is The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I thought this movie was pretty okay. I actually found the like world building elements and like the character kind of relationship elements pretty cool. How like all of these, because the story follows these like really rich like nepotism kids in the capital, and they each have to sponsor one fighter from a different district, because, you know, this shit's all just a fucking game to them. And then it explores the morality of these rich, like, evil kids as they are forced to sponsor and basically train their tributes from each of the, I think, 12 districts, right? And it's pretty cool. The premise is actually pretty cool, and like, because it's really, I mean, I know this is like, it's also like the backstory of Snow, the blonde-haired kid who's like the big bad guy in like the original Hunger Games trilogy. So that's like, this is like his backstory or whatever. And I mean, I didn't really care about that, but I gotta say the actors are all, for the most part, except for the fucking main girl, I have to say, the accent she puts on, it's like the most cliche, typical, heartwarming, A deep south country girl who couldn't hurt a fly. Oh, she's so sweet, and everything she says is just so perfect and so warm, and she's so intelligent and insightful, and everything she says is just so sweet, and it's fucking so fucking annoying the way she talks. Like, I fucking hated her stupid accent. It was horrible. Horrible, so annoying. It was just a really, really trite accent. Like, really trite, really unpracticed. So, yeah. But overall, the movie's good. The traps are fun. The games and the fights are fun. I gotta say, dude, like, the visual sci-fi world building of this world, and the costumes, of course, and the makeup are all really, really cool as well. So, yeah, from what I remember of the original Hunger Games trilogy, or quadrilogy, I thought the last two movies were awful. I thought the first movie was fine, and I thought the second movie was really good. And I gotta say, I think this is probably like the second best Hunger Games movie. So, if you thought one of the Hunger Games movies was good, you'll probably like this. I thought like half of... Basically, I feel like for me, like exactly half of these movies are good, and exactly half are really bad. So, could be worse, could be better. Let's see, I'm gonna put Hunger Games: The Ballad of Cucks and Zucks at number... Actually, that feels pretty good. Number 31 out of 67. Okay, how many movies do we have left? We've got 5, 10, 12. We've got 16 movies left. Peter Dinklage goes from Game of Thrones to Hunger Games. Yeah, well, I mean, actually, what's kind of interesting is, like, literally every single actor in Game of Thrones who got their big break by Game of Thrones, like, they all just went on to do, like, shit. Just absolute piss shit. Except Peter Dinklage, because he already had, like, kind of a career before... Not kind of, he definitely had a career before Game of Thrones. The next movie I watched was Maestro. This movie is a biopic written, directed, and starring Bradley Cooper. He is playing Leonard Bernstein, who's one of the most celebrated musical and show tune music writer and composers and conductors of all time. I thought this movie was pretty good. Carey Mulligan is the standout. She's fantastic. I think Bradley Cooper in general, unfortunately, everything about what he does here creatively is too heavy-handed. The direction is a little too vanity project and not enough in service of the character and the history of the person. I gotta say, a lot of the cinematography though is really excellent, and the way that a lot of the cinematography pairs with the editing is really excellent. There are like shots where the camera will go up into the ceiling, and then it'll like move really fast as the main character will like sprint between rooms in a home or in a building, and we'll like follow him as he's sprinting through different rooms, but we're like in the ceiling. And we're like looking down at him as he's transitioning between rooms. So like some of the cinematography is really spectacular. And I don't know. I feel bad, like, because Bradley Cooper, I think, mostly does a great job, but it's just too much. It's a little too heavy-handed, his performance, and I think the way he enveloped. It feels a little too unintentionally self-aggrandizing. And a little too pretentious. And I feel like the focus needed to be just like 15% more on maybe just showing scenes that really expressed Leonard Bernstein's essence and his life, and showing 15% less scenes that really came across like, oh, you're just trying to get an Oscar because you're really sad right now. And like it was also one of those movies where it was 100 miles wide and like a couple feet deep, because I mean we kind of get some depth on the exploration of his sexuality and his relationship with men, but like that's kind of it. Like we never really get to know his kids, we don't really get to know his closest friends, I think, except aside from like maybe one. And it is his movie, it's Leonard Bernstein's movie, but people are defined by their families and their friends. That's a huge part of who people are. It's the people that they love. And aside from Carey Mulligan, it's just kind of very isolated in its focus. So yeah, it's like a strong 3.5, I think, for me. Something just felt a little wrong while I was watching it. So you missed the mark this time, Bradley. You totally fucked it. And I'm gonna put Maestro at number 22. The next movie I watched, oh, here's a good one. Here's a controversial one, because Justin, on my podcast, he hated this movie. We didn't have enough time to get into it, but I'm sure at some point we will. This movie is called Dream Scenario. And the premise is Nicolas Cage plays I think, psychiatrist, and also a psychologist who's also like a college professor. And one day, randomly, people all over the world start having dreams about Nicolas Cage, the character that he plays. I'm just going to call him Nicolas Cage. Millions of people all over the world start having dreams about Nicolas Cage. And because he's a psychologist, he actually finds this very fascinating, like genuinely fascinating. And he really comes at it from a very logical view. And it just becomes very weird, because millions of people are dreaming about him. And then he like goes on TV and people are like, oh my God, that's the guy I've been fucking dreaming about. I've been dreaming about that guy. He's real. And so he meets a bunch of people who have been dreaming about him. And he's like, okay, let's investigate this, like from an analytical standpoint. And like he comes at it from a very scientific point of view. But then like, as they just hinted in the trailer, like eventually he gets the nickname Freddy Krueger. And eventually, like, different companies kind of start trying to monetize and control his image, and then his ego gets way out of control because he's getting all this attention, and he loses track of what's important to him, and he goes on these crazy. He meets people who are like obsessed with him because of the dreams they have about him. And it's very strange. It's great. It's really funny and weird, and it is 100% one of the most original movies of the year. I will say there are a couple things that happen in the last like 20 minutes that kind of just like fuck up the kind of just like, I don't know, just kind of like fuck up the structure of the movie, I feel like. Basically, it feels like they try to introduce some new ideas in the last 20 minutes that are like, oh, you should have just introduced this idea like way at the beginning. And then I kind of hinted at it at the beginning, but it's like you should have just introduced this idea like an hour ago and then included that as another subplot to the end, and that would have been better than just throwing it in the last 20 minutes. So there has some like structure problems, but I don't know. It's a 3.5 right now. I kind of want to let's. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do here? I think we're gonna have an upset here. I believe we're about to experience an upset, my friends. I think this movie, I gave it a 3.5, but the more I think about it and the more I look at this trailer, I feel like Like the last 20 minutes are really kind of fucked. Not like offensive or anything, but just like fucked in terms of like kind of bad movie making. But like everything else about it, I gotta say, is like really good. The premise is fascinating. It's so fun. The exploration of the character's ego is great. Nicolas Cage is fantastic. The woman who plays his wife is fantastic. The relationship they have is very sweet and tender and real. It's just it feels like a diet Charlie Kaufman movie, and I say that as a compliment because it doesn't go as far as Charlie Kaufman would, but it's still pretty fucking far out there. So yeah, that's gonna be a Dream Scenario. Let's see where it lands in the ranking. Is it better than Renfield? Yeah. Better than Knock at the Cabin? Yeah. Better than No One Will Save You? Yeah. Maestro? Yeah. Asteroid City. Now this is where we're getting into some really high territory. Is Dream Scenario better than Asteroid City? I kind of think it is. I think I gotta give this a 4 instead of a 3.5. Because I gave these a 4. I might also give Infinity Pool a 4, actually. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. I'm bumping up my ratings on Infinity Pool and Dream Scenario. I love Beau's Afraid, but honestly, it's like it's so long. It's kind of the middle chunk is really hard. It's a slog to get through. Like it's good, but it's a slog. So I can't rate it higher than like 16. Dream Scenario. Yeah, actually, this kind of feels good, I guess, because I do remember that the ending really just kind of the fact that the way they rushed it in some areas was really kind of wonky. So I guess 15 is good for now. Okay, the next movie I saw was Rebel Moon. Oh baby. One of the worst movies of the year, no doubt. Zack Snyder is a hack fucking fraud, and I'm glad he's being exposed for his bullshit tendencies. This is a very ugly movie. It looks bad. The fight scene. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I wrote some thoughts for this one. I think I wrote a small review. Oh, I did. I'll just read the review. Debatably offensive portrayal of a dollar store Native American character whose only traits are that he's good at taming animals and he's always shirtless. Miserably trite writing across the board, a black hole of creative bankruptcy. Zack Snyder's writing proves yet again to be perhaps the most brazenly immature of the current blockbuster landscape while lacking all self-awareness. The characters are just so goddamn flat and juvenile in their worldview, despite posing as the moral and intellectual superiors. Every single actor is directed to express nothing more than masculine mythic stoicism, excluding the mildly eccentric psychopathic libertine villain. It occasionally looks mesmerizing. Most of the time, though, the editing is so incoherent in its quick cuts that every fight scene ends up a jumbled mess. The catalyst for the main conflict is an exact ripoff of A Bug's Life. Ends with the principal protagonist and antagonist punching each other in the face as hard as they can, backed by some of the crudest sound design of the year. Fucking terrible. The next movie I watched... Oh, I forgot to put on the trailer. That's fine. We don't need to look at that piece of shit. Next movie I watched from the year is Inside. Okay. Now, this is a movie I don't think anyone fucking talked about or heard about, and I strongly recommend it. The premise is very simple. Willem Dafoe plays a thief who breaks into like a
multi-millionaire's luxury flat or whatever. I don't know what the term is, like luxury massive super apartment in a big ass building. And he breaks in, and then the security system activates and he gets locked in. But the thing is, the owner isn't going to be back for like, I think, months or something. And yeah, there's no access to water. The thermostat breaks. So the temperature fluctuates really randomly. He has no food. He has no way to contact anyone. He can't break the door down. He can't break through the window. So it's just, he's just completely trapped. And that's the whole movie. It's just this guy trapped in this apartment, and he, fucking loses his mind basically trying to get out. And it's just an exploration of this character who kind of goes crazy. And I feel like there might be a few flashback scenes to like get more backstory. Maybe, I can't quite remember, but yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It's very dark, but it's fun. Check it out. It's called Inside. Let's see, Inside. Definitely better than Knock at the Cabin. I'd say it's probably better than Operation Fortune and Creed 3 and Bottoms and Maestro. Let's see, Mission Impossible though. Yeah, I guess I'll put it right below Mission Impossible. Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. The next movie I watched was called You Hurt My Feelings. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's a 3-star movie. It's Julia Louis-Dreyfus and who's the other guy? Tobias Menzies. And they're, people in a relationship, and relationships are hard. And it kind of made me glad I'm single. But yeah, because relationships are hard. And it's just one of those movies, man. It's about people, and it's about relationships and how they're hard. And they talk to their friends, and sometimes they mess up, and sometimes they're sad, and all that good stuff. So, yeah. If you like those types of movies, go check it out. And I'm going to put You Hurt My Feelings at number 41. The next movie I watched was Saltburn. I gotta say, guys, and I'm sorry to say this to you, because I know a lot of people are freaking out about this movie because it's got some sexy fucking gay memes in it. And it does. This movie has a lot of fucking memes in it. And I really mean that. A lot of memes. I mean like not pre-existing memes. I mean like it creates a bunch of memes. And it's very gay, and it is very sexy. It's an incredibly horny movie. So if you like that kind of stuff, more power to you. And I like it from time to time. I think this movie might have been a 4 for me, but I gotta say, it has one of those endings where, like the protagonist reveals what has been going on this whole time, and it just like I immediately had to remove half a star just for that. Like it's just bad the way they do it. It's unnecessary. The way the movie ends is unnecessary and stupid, and just does not really add up or make sense. That's a really good review though. It says like a gothic thriller with candy pop something. But really simple premise. It's about Barry Keoghan. Is that his name? Barry Keoghan. Mary Legan. It's about Barry Kagan. Goes to this like school, this college, a really good college, and he meets this boy there, and he's hella hot because he played Elvis, and he falls in lust with him, and then he like they kind of become obsessed with each other, and then the hot boy invites Barry Kagan to his family's mansion in the country, and a bunch of weird fucking shit starts happening, and the family is like really rude and weird, and a few of them like weird sex stuff, and some really fucking weird sex stuff happens in this movie, and like props to them for going that far. It's fucking intense, dude. There's one in particular. Well, there's two big scenes. One of them is like a big meme now. The other one I haven't seen memed, probably because it's like too much. So yeah, this movie's pretty crazy. If you really like beautiful looking, shocking sex movies with a beautiful cast and lots of horny scenes, then you'll love this. Check it out. Saltburn. It's pretty good. And I'm gonna put Saltburn at number I don't know. I think I kind of liked it more than Maestro. Yeah, I guess I'll actually put it right below Inside at number 24. Next movie I watched is Biosphere. This was one of Matt's top 10 best movies of the year. And so on the Top 10s podcast, we did not spoil this movie, but I'm gonna spoil a little bit of the premise, not the end, but on the podcast we literally said nothing about the premise, the main premise. Well, it's two parts. It's a two-part premise. So we only explained the first part of the premise, which is two men living together in a biosphere because the apocalypse happened, it was probably like some kind of environmental catastrophe, I think, that happened. And one of these two men was the president, and the other one was his like Secretary of State or something. And the Secretary of State was also like this science genius guy, and he built himself a biosphere because he knew the world wasn't going to end. And so it's just the president and they have also been friends since they were little kids. So they've known each other their whole lives. But that's everything that happened before the movie. We don't see any of that. The whole movie just takes place, it's a bottle movie, inside this biosphere. So that's the first part of the premise, is that it's these two men living together, and they have to learn to get along and survive the apocalypse. And if I just say that, I think people listening are going to be like, well, I'm not going to watch that. That sounds kind of boring. And with that premise alone, it is kind of boring. So I'm going to spoil something that happens, I think like maybe a little bit less than halfway into the movie to get you to watch it. And so what happens is that there's an inexplicable event of miraculous science fiction occurs, and one of the two men starts, without any warning or reason. Well, there's a reason that's explained later. One of the two men starts to grow a vagina and a uterus and ovaries and breasts. And then their relationship evolves from there. You see what I'm getting at? Alright, I don't want to spoil anything else. It's pretty fun. I'd say the first act is a bit of a drag. because that's like the first part of the premise I mentioned, where I was like, well, you're not going to watch it if I just say that, because it's just not very interesting. But then when they get to the other stuff, it's like, oh, okay, this is a very interesting exploration of masculinity, platonic relationships, romantic relationships, sexual relationships. Even like, it's even kind of like an exploration of like consent and, like misreading, like, or people misinterpreting other people in their relationships, things that they say, things that they do. So yeah, it's very original. Very original. Go check it out, Biosphere. I think I'm gonna put it right there. Okay, we're coming down to the next. Okay, we're at the last 9 movies of the year that I watched. I have nothing to say about this one. Resident Evil Death Island. I started this movie, I think, 4 or 5 different times. I finally did finish it, and it's just completely average. If you like Resident Evil, you could watch it. If not, there's no reason for any of you to ever watch it, ever. I don't know. I guess I'll put it like here because I like it more. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's better than these movies, but like, I guess I like it more than them because Resident Evil's cool. Next movie I watched was Priscilla, and this actually is. I think there's a good chance this is going to be a top 20. Let's see where it lands. So Priscilla is a true story, a biopic, written by the real-life Priscilla Presley, who met Elvis when she was 14, I think, and I believe he was 21. They met, and, immediately you're like, oh, alarm bell's going off. And, you're right to have that reaction. But the movie, and again, Sophia's first-hand account, I was thinking of Sofia Coppola, Priscilla's first-hand account of the experience is that he really was, at least for the first probably like year or two of their relationship, it seemed, he was very good to her. He was very kind. He never forced her. He never hurt her or forced her to do anything physical she didn't want to. And as a matter of fact, he was like almost celibate. Like he had a very weird relationship with sex. And it's implied that, he might have been hooking up with other ladies while he was out on tour and ignoring his gorgeous wife back at home. But he just, like, whenever they were together, he just had a very strange, weird kind of insecurity about having sex with her. So that's, and that's part of a plot. It's certainly not a huge part of the plot, but it is a focus. It's definitely something they intentionally spend time drawing to. But ultimately, I really liked it. I thought the performance of the leading lady was fucking excellent. Kaylee Spaney. She's really, really excellent. Very wonderful, timid, soft performance. But as time goes on, she grows and she becomes her own person, and she becomes she gains her own independence. And by the end of the movie, it leaves her, at least from my perspective, the end of the movie leaves her in a very powerful, independent position, and it leaves Elvis in a very weak, like, needing position. So it makes her look very good. And I don't mean that as a way to, like, start any, Elvis versus Priscilla arguments or whatever or anything like that, but or what the intent of the artist or the director was. Just to say that. It's a movie about her, and it seems like it portrays her in a very respectful and honest way. And, for me, I think for movies like this, the thing that makes these types of movies so compelling is when the person that it's about was the person who wrote the movie. I don't know if she wrote the script. I don't even know if she's still alive, honestly. I guess probably not. But she wrote a book, and this movie the script is just taken one for one from her book. So, yeah, very fascinating, very tragic, but very soft, poignant and quietly powerful film, I would say. So that's Priscilla. And I'm going to put Priscilla at number... Oh yeah, maybe about 18 or... Actually, I want to say this was actually one of the movies that made me cry the most this year. I think I cried like fucking 3 times during Priscilla. So, yeah. Next movie I watched was called Foe. Cool premise, bad execution is the best way to describe Foe. The concept is... Concept is it's like I think 30 or 40 years in the future, climate change is ravaging the earth, and there's a project that's being made where basically humanity is going to build this fucking extremely massive space station that's just going to float in orbit and be like self-sustaining, and you know, only a certain number of people can go, and so they're only accepting people with a certain set of skills. And so one of the 2 main actors in this movie, Paul Mescal, he is recruited, and they say you have 2 years to leave and get everything ready, like emotionally or whatever, and you'll be gone for several years. And then you'll come back, and we're gonna go get you on the space station for like a trial, and then we're gonna send you back to Earth and then maybe, I guess at some point again in the future, we'll take you back again. But the main premise is that while he's gone, they're going to clone him and leave his wife with a clone of him to just like keep her company, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. There's like no one for dozens of miles, and the Earth is, you know, a barren wasteland. They don't have much food or whatever, so they just have this old ass fucking ranch house with no ranch. And yeah, and things devolve, and it gets spooky and weird, and it's about identity and stuff, but the execution is kind of poor. And Paul Mescal overacts like crazy, and it's just not necessary, the amount that he's overacting. Sorry, I didn't play the trailer, but that was Foe. Next movie I watched was easily one of the best movies of the year. It was a top 10 contender for me for a while, but it got bumped out, and that is gonna be Talk to Me. This is one of the best horror premises I've encountered in a long time. So the premise is there's a TikTok trend in this universe where a bunch of, you know, teenagers and young adults will get together at parties, and they will one at a time summon spirits and demons to possess their bodies for like 60 to 90 seconds, and then everyone else in the room will film the person who's possessed and post it for like, you know, whatever, millions of views on TikTok. And the whole movie is an allegory for drug abuse, hard drug abuse. So, you know, you would think about like, it's the same thing as like how you see like videos of kids and teens and young adults, or just regular adults at parties, and you know, there's like openly fucking doing drugs and drinking like crazy. It's like that, like that kind of vibe, but instead of drugs, it's demonic possession, and the people are willingly accepting demons into their body, because after the demon leaves your body, a lot of the time you get like this crazy rush, you know, sound familiar? And it just makes you feel high like fucking crazy. And of course, things go horrifically, unbelievably, awfully, disgustingly wrong. This movie has some of the most, and I really mean this, some of the most effective, fucking disgusting, and like disturbing body horror that I've seen in years. There's a scene where a character gets possessed, and then the demon who's possessing him starts ripping out with his own hand, ripping out his own eyeball, and they like show everything. It's one of those movies where like when the people get possessed, incredibly graphic, fucked up, horrible shit happens, and they like film all of it. It's crazy. So man, dude, yeah, just you really got to have a high tolerance, I would say, for kind of like believable body horror for this movie, I would say to anyone. But yeah, it's excellent. If you really like horror, you absolutely must watch Talk to Me, because it's gonna be my number, I'm gonna say 15 for now. Might change later. The next movie I watched was The Holdovers. We talked about this movie a whole fucking bunch on the podcast. It's really great. It's really wonderful. The concept is it's a Christmas movie, and there's this home for boys, or like an academy for boys, during Christmas break for like 2 weeks, and there's like 4 boys who like don't have anywhere to go for home, and so they have to stay at the boarding school or whatever over Christmas break. And so it's just about the 4 boys and like their 1 teacher who is their guardian, and then like a couple other people who work there, and it's just about their relationship over Christmas. And you know, one of the people is like dealing with the loss of a son, and the kids are dealing with the fact that like their parents are gone or their parents don't want them. And Paul Giamatti is like this lonely, curmudgeonly guy who by the end you see that he's, you know, wonderful, lovable old Santa Claus type guy. So yeah, it's super, super wholesome. It's really warm. It'll make you feel nice. It'll make you cry. It's one of those movies, it'll make you cry. You might cry hard, but then after you cry hard, it'll make you feel nice, and it'll make you feel good. So yeah, Holdovers, just, oh gosh, just such a sweet movie, man. Very sweet and nice. Let's see where it ranks, shall we? Yeah, definitely somewhere up here. Yeah, I guess I like it more than those. Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe number 19. All right. The next movie I watched was Haunting in Venice. It's a really standard whodunit spooky investigator ghost movie. This is a trilogy of movies starring Kenneth Branagh, and he plays based upon the novel Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. So yeah, it's film adaptations of Agatha Christie novels. They're fun if you really like spooky whodunits. These movies are really fun. I think they're pretty good. Tina Fey's in it. They also tend to have really like all-star casts, as you can say. Michelle Yeoh. Let's see, who else is in this? There's that lady. Who else is in this? Michelle Yeoh. There's that guy. There's that kid. That kid's really good. Yeah, it's a really spooky investigator movie. It's good. Go check it out. It actually has some like genuinely good scare moments, so I recommend it. I will say I did feel like Tina Fey was a weird choice. I found her kind of out of place. Like she's just being herself. She's not really like in terms of drama, she's really never been a strong actor. Comedy, of course, she's one of the all-time greats. But drama, I don't know, man. I've never really bought her in drama. The next movie I watched from the year was one of the most important movies of 2023, and I truly mean that. How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This movie is a desperate, tragic rallying cry for leftist and leftist types all over the globe who see the way that our economy and our climate is going and realize that drastic action must be taken yesterday in order for us to even have a tiny chance at future generations surviving or having a good life on this planet. I mean, it's estimated that I think like within the next like 80 years, it's estimated that like 10 to 20% of the global population will die in like climate disasters, whether that's heat waves, floods, tsunamis, you know, hurricanes, tornadoes. Mainly heat waves and droughts, though, are going to be the main thing that really fuck people over. So this movie is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fictionalized, I believe it's based on a book, and it's just like it's like less than 2 hours long. It's just like really straight and to the point. Really, really amazing performances all around. Heartfelt performers. And I think it does a really great job of illustrating how people on both the left and the right will come together and already are coming together, and how our backgrounds and beliefs can overline a lot more than we think in regards to coming together for a brighter future. But yeah, it's about a group of young adults, like 6 people, I guess. 6 or 7 people who go fucking blow up a pipeline. Because it's really more about the message of, you know, climate catastrophes and climate apocalypses coming, and the billions of people who are going to die and already are dying because of shit that could have been prevented decades ago. So yeah, it's really important. It's really well done. It's very concise, very to the point, but it takes itself seriously, and it knows when to pull its punches and when not to. I think I'm gonna put this maybe right about there, number 17. And now, my friends, we've come to the final 2 movies of the year. The first one was one that I watched the day before the podcast for best movies of the year, and this ended up, I believe, being my number 8 of the year, Anatomy of a Fall. One of the best procedural dramas I've seen in years. The basic premise is incredibly simple. A father and husband dies while working on his family home, but no one is sure as to whether he fell on accident, or he committed suicide, or he was pushed. It's one of the 3 options, and for the entire movie, you are guessing alongside the prosecutor and the main characters of like, I don't know. Was he pushed? Did he commit suicide? Oh, this makes me think he committed suicide. This makes me think he was pushed. This makes me think it could have just been an accident. And it's just so immaculately crafted. Absolutely stunning pacing. Some of the best pacing I've ever seen for a movie. It's 2.5 hours long. It flies by, man. It's so compelling. And it's really also partially very much so about it's like a portrayal of how when a family is sent to court, regardless of whether people are innocent or guilty, of how that experience affects them. And it's really a dissection of the trauma and the kind of everlasting sense of like maybe something you just don't move on from. And in particular, the son of the couple, of the father who died and the mother who's being accused of murder, the son is called as witness in the court trial, in the court hearings, and he's like, I think 8 years old or something, and he's mostly blind, and his testimony kind of becomes the deciding factor of whether the mom will be considered guilty or not guilty of murder. And and it's about how the trial affects him and how it changes his perception of his parents and how it forces this little boy to grow up really quickly and suddenly, like, you know, kind of skip 10 years of what could have been his childhood and instead have to be drawn into the world of, like, you know, adults and death and law and trial, and it's very tormenting for him. So, all right, guys, this is it. We're here at the end. We're here at the very end of the list. I only have one movie remaining that I watched in 2023. Can you guess what it is? That's right. It was The Marvels. Woohoo! I'll be honest, one of the main components that actually kept me compelled to continue watching this movie is that Brie Larson is just unbelievably stunning. Wonderful actor for sure, but like I love it when she's in movies. So that was kind of my main takeaway from this movie, because the plot was really standard, the characters were a little annoying, the villain was kind of, you know, villain of the week, the premise was kind of premise of the week, and so Brie Larson is a goddess. And that was the last movie I watched of the year. Holy fuck, that was 2 hours and 50 minutes. That was too long. And now I'm gonna get out of here. I need food. I need to chill out. Thank you all so much for hanging out for this extensive movie ranking stream. I hope you all have a good one. And I will catch you next time, which might be later tonight with Dead Space. I fucking died on my last stream at the same place I died, like, it's the furthest I've ever gotten. I died there twice at the nuclear bomb room on the Valor Chapter 8, I think. So, we'll see. I might start a new Dead Space playthrough. We'll see how I'm feeling. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'll catch you on the next one.